Welcome. We're playing a bit more Baldur's Gate Sealed today. So far this is my third one, so I went 5 and 3 and then 0, 3 in the last one, so hopefully we can do a bit better today. Right. Let's have a look at our rares. It looks like a lot of artifacts to me. That's a very... Okay, we've got blood money again. I've had this in my first sealed. So it's a wrath effect for 7, destroy all creatures, and you get a tapped treasure token for each creature. It's very cool. I saw someone use this. Lae'zel's Acrobatics, instant for 4. Exile all non-token creatures you control. You either return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next turn step, or you return them to the battlefield under their owner's control and then exile them again and then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control at the beginning of the next turn step. So it can do a half the time. It'll do a double exile. So you can double up on all of those come into play effects, which is pretty exciting. Earthquake Dragon, that's the most expensive casting cost I've ever seen. 1 green and 14. I know there's one of those Eldrazi that's very expensive as well. Elemental Dragon. Good news, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of dragons you control, not named Earthquake Dragon. So if we can find some more dragons, this might be playable. 10/10 Flying Trample. Sacrifice a land for 3 mana. Return Earthquake Dragon from your graveyard to your hand. Pretty nice. So it's got recursion. I'm trying to think if I've seen many exile effects in Baldur's Gate. Off the top of my head, I don't think there's much graveyard hate. I could be wrong. That might be quite good, but yeah, little bit on the pricey side. 15 mana. I see 2 of my artifacts are the same. We've got 2 copies of Fraying Line. This better be good, right? When it enters the battlefield, put a rope counter on target creature you control. Beginning of each player's upkeep. That player may pay 2. So my opponent can pay 2. If they do, they put a rope counter on a creature they control. Otherwise, exile Fraying Line. And each creature without a rope counter. Otherwise, exile Fraying Line in each creature without a rope counter on it. Then remove all rope counters from all creatures. Wow. Okay, this reminds me of Navinral's Disc, which is that was a 4 casting cost artifact that comes into play tapped. You can tap it to destroy all creatures, I think. This is a board wipe, but your opponent can pay 2 to save a creature and stop the line from taking effect. But so they can save one of their creatures. It can go back to your turn. You don't have to pay. Yeah, beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2. I don't have to pay that. Let the right line break. So one of my creatures is saved. One of my opponent's creatures is saved. The rest of the creatures actually are exiled. So there's an example of an exile effect. So that's pretty amazing to get 2 copies of that. A 4 mana board wipe, basically. Well, board wipe everything apart from your opponent's best creature, your opponent's favourite creature. So still pretty good for some of these swarm kind of decks. I've seen people playing, probably, I'm assuming they're playing 20 creatures in their deck because they're playing a creature every turn. Because definitely in this set, the removal is not quite as good as the creatures. The creatures it's better to have creatures than removal a lot of the time. So let's have a look at this. Mirror of Life Trapping, artifact for 4. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it was cast, exile it, then return all other permanent cards exiled with Mirror of Life Trapping to the battlefield under their owner's control. Interesting. Is it good though? So, if you've got a good board position, you can play this, and it takes out the next creature your opponent plays. So he's kind of got to get, and if he's got 2 creatures, then it's like he gets to choose which creature is going to be on the field, and one's going to get taken out. But then it makes it harder for you to improve your board. It kind of like, yeah, basically it's you want to get, you definitely want to get a good board situation, then play this, and then it's makes it much harder for your opponent to equalize. Could go well with Fraying Line. You could, in fact, you could even hide a creature in here from Fraying Line, as well as have a rope counter on another creature. So when your opponent plays your next creature, your mirrored creature pops out, and their creature goes into the mirror. Interesting. Might play it. Definitely playing Fraying Line, I would say. Possibly Blood Money. We don't know if Earthquake Dragon's going to be playable at all. Depends on whether we've got other dragons. Acrobatics. I mean, yeah, 4 mana instant. It's a bit like there's one in Strixhaven where you can exile all your creatures till end of turn, and they come back with a +1/+1 counter, and that costs 4 mana. So it's a bit like that one. But yeah, this is definitely, this scales up the more come into play effects you've got, basically. Right. We are going to go through each colour, and just my system is we're going to select cards that are either removal, card advantage, so draw 2 cards kind of thing, or make it cards that make copies of themselves. And also any evasion creatures, flying or menace. That's what we're interested in. I think that makes for a pretty solid basis of a deck. Okay, Unicorn. That's actually quite a cheap pump ability, I've got to say. Can I use it once per turn? Pretty good 1-drop, I would say. Dawnbringer Cleric. Here's an example of Graveyard Hate, so that can exile things from the graveyard. It can also be card advantage by destroying enchantments. It's quite flexible. You can also gain 2 life. Life gain can be quite important in this set if you've got things you can spend life on. Yeah, I'm not quite sure we consider this guy, because it's nice he's got so many options on him. You can always just gain life. But I don't think he's amazing necessarily, but pretty nice to have. These are really good, yeah. Cheap creature with double team. Lifelink is nice enough, and we do have a life gain payoff, so I wouldn't include this just yet, but if we are playing white, we probably put our life gain cards in, our clerics, our paladin, and the payoff, the unicorn. And we've also got Priest of Ancient Law, who is life gain and card draw. So he's definitely worth considering. Notice he's a come into play effect, which we're also looking out for. Dawnbringer Cleric, of course, come into play effect, so could definitely go really well with our acrobatics. So we will include the acrobatics. This guy exiles things, so he's definitely good. He's removal. That's just a buff. This has a 3 mana adventure, so exile artifact or enchantment, which is, we don't know how good that is. We don't know if our opponent might not be playing artifacts or enchantments. Otherwise, it's a 7 mana 5/6 with vigilance. As long as it's your turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Guardian Naga. That's pretty impressive. Very expensive though. We might play it. I'm not sure about that though. Right, then we get on to the blue cards. Let's just look at blue. So this guy, Guild Thief, you can pay 4 to make it unblockable. I would say it's worth considering. It's a good bit of evasion. Shocking Grasp. It's okay because it's a cantrip, but I don't think we consider it. I think this one, 8 mana, is just far too much mana to get card advantage. So I don't think we can think about that one. Undersimplify. Cheap counter spell. Maybe this is. See, I didn't consider this last time, but I think it might be good. A cheap counter spell. I'll tell you what. Well, it still has value if you can mess up a creature late game. So yeah, that's maybe better than it looks actually. And that's quite interesting. That can mess up creatures that block it. So that's a bounce spell that can make something unblockable. Untapping things. It's funny, haven't seen that many permanents with tap effects. I mean, have a look through these. Anything with a tap effect? No. So I don't know what this guy's supposed to. I haven't seen the card that this guy combines with yet. Just counter spell. I guess we can include the counter spells. This is pretty cool. This is a really nice clone effect that it gives the clone flying. Pretty decent creature with ward. This can bounce something. Quite good tempo, but I think the fact that it's 6 mana for a 2/5 flyer isn't very inspiring. Maybe we include it. And that's some card draw. Interesting. Dragon Bard lets you cast dragons from the top of your library. Well, that would be card advantage if we can find a bunch of dragons. Gates are good. They've got card advantage. Mind Spike, so that's basically like a Duras. Shambling Ghast. He's... yeah, we know he's pretty good, but... yeah, I think we'll include treasure making cards and mana fixing. So we can consider this guy like a mana fixer. I think we might include him. Here's a removal card. Yeah, that is good. Destroy target non-legendary for 2 mana. Fantastic. Deadly Dispute is good. This guy's good as well. So some good early black drops. That makes treasure tokens if it gets through. Maybe that's good as well. Thieves' Tool makes treasure. Makes things unblockable. Yeah, why not? Demogorgon's Clutches. I don't think I include this. It is card advantage, but it might whiff late game. This is a pretty good evasion creature. That's removal. Chain Devil. Both players have to sacrifice something. Grim Bounties removal. I've got 2 Grim Bounties. That's really nice. Hook Horror. Oh, this is great. When it dies, it becomes a 2/2. Really persistent, hard to kill creature. I think I like that a lot. Okay, it does cost 5 mana, but persistent creatures are definitely cool. And of course, blood money. So, black, looking very strong. Try and look at red. There we go. I quite like the rapier. It's a nice little combat trick. But yeah, it's not a must-have. This has double team, and we've managed to get 3 of them, which is pretty amazing. So, yeah, all 3 of these. Unexpected allies. Oh, sweet. Target non-token creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains double team until end of turn. And gains first strike if it has the same name as another creature you control or a creature in your graveyard. That is actually card advantage. Very interesting card. I think that's worth including. Right. Pumps things. Incessant Provocation. Okay, cool. Familiar with this card. This type of card, anyway. Bit of card draw, makes treasures as well. But it's, yeah, discard, draw 2. Or is a Tiamat, we know of, fantastic. Cult Elemental. Maybe not. Nice. Null Heart Hunting Party has double team as well. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Right, a look at green. Line up the shot. I think that's very good. I mean, it's just does everything. If they don't have a flyer, artifact or enchantment, you can just cantrip it basically. Seems like a very good card. Right. Death Touch, and it's a cantrip. Yep, I think that's good. Death Touches are good. Band Together, that's removal. Arcane Archery. I haven't really used this yet, but it does seem really good. Right, you can get back a creature and a land. So technically that's card advantage. Land fixing. But because it costs 3, I think it's maybe not as good. I think I wouldn't include it. Oh sweet, this finds 2 basic lands. So that's a ramp creature. I definitely like that one a lot. Yeah, that's the Bard. Ettercap is, yeah, I like reach creatures as well. I include reach creatures. That draws a card. Emerald Dragon. You can counter activated or triggered ability from a non-creature source. Interesting. It's kind of very narrow. I'd be surprised to actually get that to work. But otherwise it's a 4/4 flying trample for 6, which is alright. And there's an Earthquake Dragon, which yeah, we've got to consider that one. We've got some very powerful artifacts as well. We always consider the Pit Trap because it's removal. Bronze Walrus, so he's a nice bit of mana fixing. It's a shame he costs 3, but definitely worth considering. Lantern of Revealing's really good. Fraying Line, we've seen, is fantastic. Mirror of Life Trapping's pretty fantastic. That's a flying creature. Meteor Golem destroys things. Very good. Right. Anything else? So, we've got 70 cards in our sort of pool to consider. We've noticed that black seems particularly strong. Yeah, so that's borne out here. We've included 12 black cards, but also 12 green cards. Only 5 white cards. But if we remember, we do have the white, the life gain bit for white, which we could include. That could bulk it out to get it up to about 10 cards. So they could definitely go white and black. Do we want to go green and black? I suppose is the next question. It looks like we're eliminating blue and red. I think red does have some pretty cool cards. They've got a lot of these double teamers. So if we need a lot of 2-drops, that can really help bulk out our numbers. How many dragons are included in this slot? There are a few. Yeah, 5 dragons. Let me drop all of these. So yeah, we'd potentially be playing Dawnbringer Cleric, Steadfast Paladin, Celestial Unicorn. There's a few. I mean, these other white cards are quite playable. So I think it's a case of deciding which cards have the best synergy together. So if we're going to play our rope, the Fraying Line, might be better to play more of a control deck with a few good creatures and lots of removal. So maybe green. Right. So I'd say Poison the Blade isn't going to work in that kind of deck, because it needs sort of creature blocking, creature interaction. Basilisk is just an early drop. Same for Arcane Archery, that doesn't really work. Band Together, it scales with the number of creatures you're playing. It definitely works better with big creatures. Quite like Druid of the Emerald Grove. That's getting loads of lands out for us. Let's see, Ettercap, quite good. Destroys flyers. Decent big creature, and yeah, Earthquake Dragon as well. But let's actually take out everything apart from the dragons and see what it looks like. And just have potentially green as a splash colour for Earthquake Dragon. The other thing that would be amazing would be if you had an animate dead type spell with Earthquake Dragon, a way to discard it and then bring it back onto the battlefield. But I didn't notice anything like that. No. So Meteor Golem's definitely awesome with that white spell, the Acrobatics. Arguably that green Druid is pretty good with Acrobatics as well. Maybe we could do an enter the board deck. And possibly just forget about the dragons. Just drop these dragons. That is double green as well, so that's quite hard to make work. This is also come into play effect, the Aspiring Bard. Maybe it's worth considering. And Owlbear, so that's double green. Nice that it scries 2 as well, so it's got a nice enter the board effect of the Walrus. Okay, I think I'll call it end of part 1 there. It's going to take a bit longer to figure out the final deck, but it's sort of taking shape. It looks like it'll be a white-black control style deck with enter the board effects as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching.